Everybody, welcome to the Standing Stone podcast. This is should be a fun conversation about kind of deep diving into the guiding process as we know it. I have Charles with me today. We're going to be discussing everything from the difference in guiding on pen-raised birds versus wild birds, kind of the benefits and drawbacks for, actually there are some, for dogs. I'm talking about safety with working with people and people of different experience levels and kind of what that looks like for us. And then finishing out with some tips and or suggestions for people that may be interested in becoming a bird hunting guide themselves. Whew. Before we get started with this though, folks, I do want to say thank you to all of the supporters of this channel. Patrons being one of the largest supporters. You can become a patron yourself at patreon.com/Standing Stone Kennels. And outside of that, we do have a few companies that we believe in, which is why we've chose to work with them and are excited about the fact that they work with us. That would be DT Systems e-collars, Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food, Kent Ammunition, and Onyx Hunt. We use that basically in a big part of this guiding extravaganza that we're about to deep dive into. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the biggest differences in wild bird hunting versus pen-raised bird hunting from a guiding standpoint. I mean, obviously they're different, but what does that look like guiding?
Needing to know the ground a lot, but for different reasons. So if you're doing pen-raised hunts, generally you're in a similar area, so you kind of know what the birds tend to do in that area. And make sure that you can hunt the field appropriately to kind of keep them where you need to keep them, because you generally have a smaller area, and I would say with wild birds is more about being able to find them and getting opportunities would be the two biggest things that I would say.
Well, and then there's probably the ability to break that down even more. Everybody always dreams about the private land experience, but even in that situation, you're kind of pigeonholed into the same. Mm-hmm. I don't want to complain about wild bird hunting. That's not what I'm doing at all. But you are confined to the fence line. Right. And you kind of have your set areas where when you are hunting public ground, you do have the next place, though they may be overpressured or they may have already been hunted. So finding birds on finding wild birds on public ground can be a bigger challenge at times, but at the same time, being confined to an area, and let's say you work something wrong and push the majority of the birds onto the neighbors, and then you go, well, that's what we have for today. Yeah. Maybe we can go talk to the neighbor, that kind of thing. So there is a difference with that. Now, I do want to know, let's break down some of the different places. Where have you guided pen-raised birds at?
Pen-raised I've done in Iowa and Texas.
Okay. And so I've done a handful of different places. I have actually guided pen-raised birds. I'm trying to think. Majority of it is in Texas.
I've done some youth stuff in Kansas, I guess, but not like paid guiding. More like bringing dogs out for Fun Forever type things.
Correct. Which they've all learned is better to just put bird in a launcher. Yeah. And set up a station. So, because you're putting a shotgun in
a whole nother thing.
Young child's hands. Yes. Trying to help them have a good experience. And it is part of the process, but just trying to think. So out in Africa, which a good friend of ours, Chuck, has his little place, which is in northwest Kansas. Mm-hmm. And it is out in the middle of nowhere and it's fairly dry. And he has a running joke about why he named the place Africa. But anyhow, so I have helped guide in Africa, or at Africa, excuse me, on pen-raised birds there. And that would be the only place in Kansas. I've hunted pen-raised birds in Kansas. I've hunted at a preserve, but not helped guide in Iowa. And
hunted there a bunch too.
Yeah. A majority of it's Highland Hideaway.
Yep.
Which is near, what's the closest town?
Iowa City would be the big one.
It's south of there, like 30 miles.
Yeah, because there's a casino there they kind of work with. So
got it. It's Riverside, Iowa, right? It's the closest town.
Yep.
So it's a pretty nice place. If you're in that area, check it out. But the biggest place that I spent 3 years and like full season guiding, almost 4 full months at Greystone Castle, which is, in case anybody didn't know, that you can't shoot chucker, pheasants, Hungarian partridge, and quail all in the same morning and afternoon and
happens
whatever.
To be pen raised.
They happen to be pen raised.
Yeah.
Yep. So, which is the way a majority of bigger resorts are. Anything that's truly commercial, where they're cleaning, like you got to have your bags out in the morning so the rooms can be cleaned so the group can arrive that evening.
Yeah.
You probably are not hunting wild birds, but neither here nor there. If you thought you hunted wild birds at a place like that, kudos to them. They're doing a good job.
Yep.
The biggest part of that, though, was small groups versus large groups. What's the biggest group that you've hunted pen raised birds on?
Ooh, I don't think I may have had 6 people in the field, but I generally the main place that I guided was not a place where you would come and stay. You would come and guide there, and maybe on a bigger group there would be multiple guides broken up and there'd be lunch or something, or maybe they'd like come back the next morning, but it did not have lodging or anything like that. It was a farm that guided, that had hunts.
Got it.
And I believe the rule was 5 was the most, and almost always 4. But I know for sure there was times where I had at least 6 people, where I had people walking along, mostly because of new hunters. So somebody there to make sure, to keep that person or 2 people, just help them out.
Yeah.
That was kind of the rule there. I believe it was 5 was the most he would do, but 4 was pretty standard.
The majority of guiding that I have done has been on wild birds, and
wild birds, you can run a few more people because you can set
species,
up, right? Exactly. Yeah.
So, South Dakota, bigger country, kind of the way it's set up. There's walking and blocking traditionally how it's done.
So you don't traditionally block
quail hunts
or even pen raised pheasant hunts. You really don't. I mean, occasionally there would be times where I'd have somebody maybe the last 400 yards
tired of walking.
Or tired of walking. But traditionally wild bird hunting, you actually kind of need more than, 4 people might not even be, it might be hard to hunt a lot of places, especially like South Dakota, any big CRP.
Yeah, it's plus and minuses. Like there's a sweet spot with a group size, and depends, and it does change what cover we can hunt and how we hunt it. Mm-hmm. But typically when you start chopping numbers down, unless it's really late season stuff or something weird, you can do all right with smaller groups because you're looking for drastically less birds. So
and probably late season tighter. You're looking, maybe had some snow, condense them down a little bit. Depends, I guess. There.
Yeah, if you can. The hardest part is from a pheasant hunting standpoint with larger groups is earlier season stuff that continues to drag on longer and longer without any type of cold snap or cool temperatures, and birds are spread out.
They just go wherever they want. They can live in a little clump. They don't need good habitat.
But for me, I think I prefer wild bird hunting and I prefer wild bird guiding to an extent.
Yeah. What'd they do at Greystone for groups?
Rarely were you more than 3.
Yeah.
3 was kind of
almost
maximum.
always, mostly quail, right? Or they do a little bit of.
It was quail, pheasants, chucker, and Hungarian partridge. You had a mixed bag.
So they'd all be out there.
Barrage.
Yeah, I wouldn't want more than 3 anyway.
Yeah, and you keep with a lot of groups of 2.
Yeah.
They were small fields there, and I don't know how it's changed. It's been years since I've been there, but they were smaller fields, like 20 acres probably, or 30 acres at the most. Maybe bigger than that, but I don't feel like it. And
yeah, similar. Like in some strips, like we had some bigger fields, but they were terraces. So you're basically you're hunting terrace up and down. Yeah.
So when you are in a situation like that, it's two totally different styles of hunting because one, birds generally don't perform as well when they are pen raised. So you have to hunt tighter and keep dogs tighter and keep people tighter so that you essentially walk over them if the dogs miss them because they don't run and they don't move sometimes. So you can literally walk past them, which can happen with wild birds, but it happens less.
Yeah.
There are times that you stop and then a bird gets up right next to you or you step on one. Everybody has done that. But generally speaking, your presence and your pressure of moving the line and the noise that you're making and the dogs and everything else is going to be moving birds ahead of you and keep them going.
Yeah.
Pen raised birds can be like that, but you get like polar opposites. There's rarely that middle ground of cooperators. There's the birds that blow out the end, and then there's the birds that you walk past and they don't fly.
Yeah,
or the dog catches them.
Yeah, they either sit there and don't move and they won't even get up, or the second they're planted, they must just be gone because they're just running instantly and they never stop.
So it's a challenge for me guiding wild birds. I have hunted the same properties a lot, and I've got a pretty good idea of where stuff is, but you don't have them pinned down. You didn't put them there.
Yep.
So you do rely on what is the change. Were they pushed out by weather? Were they held down by weather? Are they holding up because of X, Y, or Z? The wind changes things. If crops were harvested, if there's water that dried up there, or just there's water everywhere. There's less pieces to kind of regulate them. Are you hunting trees, or are you hunting grass, or are you hunting cattails? All of those variables change, and though the birds can be predictable, they're also consistently unpredictable.
You also hunt them a lot less. So that's why I was saying that I think on pen raised birds, knowing how to work the field and what the birds traditionally do, because you may be in that field 5 times a week, 6 times a week, you might be in one of those fields. So you really do need to, you should know that. Like letting birds squirt out on you in a pen raised hunt is pretty bad because you should learn that instantly. Whereas on wild birds, you may hunt that field 3 times in a year, or 4 times in a season, or depending on the size of the setup. So it's more about being able to find them and then learn what they do kind of on the fly. Cause we can get into it, but it's not, you don't usually scout a lot because the more pressure you put on them and the more you mess with them, it generally makes the hunting harder. So it's kind of a balance in learning your areas that you're hunting. And also it's good. Like you get to hunt the same fields year over year. Not that you're hunting them a lot, but you're hunting the same areas. So you learn a lot more about them. And similar to like what's going on in Texas, which is in that process. Well,
and I'm kind of mostly referring to pheasants, but I also guide grouse hunts. So prairie grouse, excuse me. There is a difference in different grouses out there. You've got sharp-tail and prairie chicken in the state of South Dakota. The numbers are pretty good. And I run groups of that, and no more than 5 people there, where pheasant hunting for years we ran 10 to 12. I've choked that down to about 8 just because it's a little more manageable from
vehicles,
just
moving around,
food, and taking care of all of those pieces. So 8 seems to be a good number too. But then if you get outside of, like, you can do 5 in the prairies because you can spread out good distance. It's wide open. Everybody can see each other. You can stay pretty safe. But then the birds also fly safely. They fly up and away from you. Versus if you get into anything where there's quail hunting, like I feel like 4 is kind of the maximum from a wild bird standpoint. And if you get into the pen raised quail category, the flight patterns are so erratic and
they don't make any sense.
You need less people, and you almost can shoot more birds with less people because there's less to worry about.
Right. The middle, if you have 4, kind of the middle guys get real, or gals, middle people get real tight. They don't have a lot to shoot.
Your goal in the middle is not to shoot something wrong.
Right.
Like don't swing through somebody.
In wild bird guiding in Kansas, where we had both, right? So we're going to run into pheasants and quail. We're going to hunt quail strips into pheasant areas and vice versa. And I don't believe I ever had more than 4. And sometimes even that was like, the 2 guns would rotate kind of like, say we're walking a fence row out an 80 acre, so half a mile, we're going to walk this fence line out. We might have 2 guns in the back that actually aren't shooting. Yeah. And we're going to work a covey, and then that covey is going to break up. And then, we might go work some singles with some guys, but generally we would have no more than 4. I don't remember ever having more than 4 on that. And then I had a gun for that particular thing. For when I pen raise guide, I never have a gun. Mostly because while they're paying for both, they're directly paying for the bird count. So if I don't feel it's right, and unless they really, 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 really like you make me carry a gun, I never carried a gun pen raise.
Yeah, I never carried a gun pen raise. It wasn't an option at Greystone. That was a majority of the pen raise hunting. And then wild, quote unquote, guiding, I've run dogs for people in a lot of areas that were new to me, that we also had someone pointing us in the right direction. And that's been, everything from blue grouse, sage grouse, blue and bobs, and been down to hunt Arizona for quail. And up into to hunt the king's bird, or like the true grouse, whatever it is, rough grouse. Been up there to run dogs for/with people, not in a I just went hunting standpoint. And those, it was, there's a learning experience from a dog standpoint, but in those situations, generally speaking, I do carry a gun. Yeah, because I fill a spot that there can be misses. Like the bird gets up in the shooting window. Is your mine. Window.
Yeah. It's just, there's not going
to it's too far for the guy to the right of me and too far for the guy to the left of me. And people just move that way. Like, no, ignore me. I'm not here. No, you're here. Okay. Well, I'm walking the line, and my position is the person who had that shot. And then you do miss opportunities. Not that there are bird hogs. That's a thing, right? That guides that just smoke everything. And they're you see it. I've heard of it. I haven't really experienced it a lot, but I've heard of it more from a waterfowl standpoint, that guys, like a guide will stand up and pang, 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 pang.
Take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we'll get into that aspect of things later, but it's because I'm a good shot, I'd say above average shot, and have a lot of experience with it. And more so, not that I'm a better shot than the average person, but I'm better at game bird recognition than the average person. So
confidence too. You can pull up and go, on the way up, you're going, that is a rooster, instead of, oh yeah, that's a rooster.
Or, ooh, what were those? Oh, those were quail. Oh shoot, I missed my opportunity because I don't have the same level of experience. Right. And when someone's waiting for you to help call if it's a hen or a rooster, it puts them behind the ball, which makes their shot drastically more difficult. So,
and I know in Iowa, most of my guiding on wild birds in Iowa was, somebody got a hold of somebody who said, hey, we need dogs.
Sure.
And I didn't ever carry a gun then. I just tried to get behind somebody and try to keep people in line and kind of fill where I'm going, this is where I would walk. So get over here, come over here and walk here, because this is where I would be, and this is a good spot.
We'll say there's an art to that as well, from being good enough at handling dogs to be able to do both.
Absolutely.
Because if you're the sole person responsible for dogs, whether it's pen birds or wild birds, and you start focusing on shooting, then all of a sudden the dog's running up ahead doing whatever, and it becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. So it took me quite a few years. A majority of the groups that I guide now are more... we've been hunting together, most of them, for more than 10 years, which I've hunted more with them than my own quote unquote hunting buddies, right? So it's, they want me to hunt with them, and it doesn't become a thing like, oh, the guide sniped all our birds. So he's, no, Ethan killed a few because he had the opportunity. So it's good. All the way around, I would say the big differences in pen raised birds versus wild birds, if we can kind of check those off. Wild birds, you have to go find. Yep. You also can lose them if you push them off the property. So the same thing, like those are some similarities. You do have to find your pen raised birds, but generally you've got a better idea of where they're at.
Yep.
It's a smaller field, but you do still have to keep from losing them, which means hunting appropriately and doing those things. Because once they're gone, you can't venture into the neighbor's field.
And sometimes you can't. Yeah, and maybe be the
There
same
may be another
property,
group,
but you just can't go over there because depending on the setup, some of them have buffer fields where you can kind of wander over, and some of them that is literally the next field, and it may be planted or somebody's hunting it, and you can't go over there because that's their birds. So
and. Wild birds, generally speaking, are better performers. I have seen some weird things happen with wild birds.
Wild birds can get caught.
Yes.
I've seen it.
Yes. And by people. We were hunting the snow one time, and dog locked up on point, and I think Kat said, it was Jessica was hunting with us, and Kat said, "Get it up," or something like that, because they were all buried in the snow. And she walked over and dug in the snow and picked the bird up. And I was like, "What are you? How did you do that?"
Yeah.
But they just were hunkered up because it was a cold snow and whatever else. But so weird things have happened.
The more you get out there, the more you'll see. I promise.
But generally speaking, wild birds way outperform pen raised birds. There are a lot of places that still do it right, similar to the way that we release birds at the ranch. There is a small area that we do pen raised bird hunts in, and we let birds fly out of boxes.
Yep.
Here you go. They fly that direction. They fly this direction. And generally, the second flight with quail, these are weird things that you learn too. The second flight's generally better. So if they get to fly out of the box, then they're kind of stretched their wings or whatever. They're not dizzied. They're not pillowcased. They're not any of the number of different tactics to try and get them to sit right there. They're just running around. Now, we do know where they are-ish, as long as they stayed close.
And it doesn't matter where they go on that property. We can chase them.
Yeah. So
generally they stay close enough that by the time that's the thing down there is heat. So you're kind of limited anyway in amount of time that we can chase them around. So,
and survey says, which would you rather hunt, wild birds or pen birds?
Wild.
Wild here.
Close.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's kind of it's a brief overview of some of the differences in pen raised birds versus wild birds. Some differences in states. I don't have experience in every single state that's out there. I know in the Northeast, there's a lot, and there's a lot of areas that have a lot less birds. So pen raised might be your only option. And some of the bigger places like South Georgia plantations or those places do lots of releases and lots of quail.
And they kind of become a little
wily-ish.
Yeah.
And that part of it's great. If that's your option, though wild bird hunting is awesome, come west and try it. I understand it may not be feasible, so hunt the pen raised birds, but there's different ways to go about it. You can actually communicate with the preserve and say, hey, just dump them out. We want to go look for them. And then be okay with finding less than 50% of what you paid to put out. That's a big hangout.
My kind of guide, I should say, in my head is if they're going to not dizzy and plant, then if you see half and harvest half of that, you had a pretty good hunt. So that's kind of if you want them to be running and wild and
work at it,
then that should be your kind of prepare. If you put out 10 birds, you may only see 5 and you may only get 2 to 3.
And my recommendation for people that
if you do better than that, then
you're doing great.
Yeah, it's great.
And it depends on how busy the preserve is too, because you'll find extras from somebody else's hunt and things of that nature.
Mondays are great days to go hunting at a preserve if you can.
Absolutely. They get the weekend residuals left over.
Yep.
So it's one of those things though that dogs that we're training are smart and they figure out dumb birds that do dumb things really fast and they get naughty. And then we get dogs in for training that deal with why does my dog creep all the way up and then touch the bird with their nose?
Because they can.
And wild birds won't allow them to do that 99% of the time. So it's a respect for it all the way around. Wild birds are a better option if you can find them. If you can't, doing pen raised bird hunts are fun, but you do have to evaluate kind of what your dog is doing. And if that's your only option, still try and aim towards, my recommendation would be try and aim towards that more wild-like-ish hunt.
Or if you are a member, like most of the clubs, you can go scratch hunt. You may have to pay your scratch hunt fee or pay for the birds that you harvest still. But you could just go during the week and not even put a bird out and just, that kind of depends on the club, but that can be another way to work a younger dog on some birds that'll more than likely be better.
Be more wild.
They survived a little bit, so they're not going to let the dog or the puppy catch them.
Yeah, I ran the other day, run down the road, coming out, I turned the corner to go back to the south, and there were 2 or 3 chucker, and they were on the road. I could see them, and they got up and they took off running, and then they flew away.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in gun range. I couldn't have killed them.
Right.
And so they do get wily. Not all of them, but some of them do.
Yeah.
So it can be kind of fun. One of the things that I do want to touch base with, because we talked a lot about different group size, is as a guide, you are in charge of all of the people that are out there. That's your responsibility. From a safety standpoint, what are some of the biggest things that work against us, or what do we see? And then I want to break down kind of the difference in new hunters versus old hunters, and all the way around, then safety for the dogs in combination with this. So safety for people, safety overall for the hunt, and then new hunters and old hunters and differences in that. And then dog safety being the last, because it's kind of the most important. So
yeah, you are dealing with firearms.
It's not the most important. It
feels
is an
like
important factor.
It feels like it. Because they have less control. They are the dogs are kind of at our mercy. So that's why it kind of feels that way. Whereas people, to me, I can say, hey, I can physically talk to them and say, stop that, or don't do that, or do this.
Correct.
The biggest thing that I see or would say is as people get tired, so whatever that means for them, gun safety starts to relax, and in a way that the guns just tend to get pointed where they aren't supposed to. Whether that means the ground, at other people, and it can be completely innocent. Whereas a very common one is their gun is on their shoulder. They're tired, their gun is on their shoulder, and next thing they know, it's basically pointing parallel to the ground. And if they turn and look at anybody, now it's pointing at the person behind them. Yeah. Especially people that are very used to handling firearms. If you are very, very used to it, but you don't do it, we do it every single day. So every day I'm cognizant of where I'm closing my gun, hyper aware of it.
Yeah.
And what happens is you can get a little lackadaisical because you've been handling the gun for a few days, and you can, next thing you know, it's pointing where you don't intend it to point. That's the easiest way to describe what I see most. It's not intentional. It's not somebody being reckless, which you do see occasionally.
Not being intentionally reckless. It kind of is.
And it can be as simple as, I threw, they set their gun down on the tailgate, and it's like, hey, it's literally still loaded and now pointing at another truck.
Yeah.
It isn't intentional by any means, but it just becomes kind of secondary to what they're thinking about. It's just always there.
Yeah.
So it becomes easy to forget.
Well, and I know that this is probably a portion of the guiding topic stuff that people are like, yeah, gun safety, we understand. But it's one of the biggest issues that we deal with, trying to corral a large number of folks and help them to have a safe and fun hunt.
Just think about 8, you have 8 guys. They all get out, and you have 8 guns or 9 with yours, and everybody is loading. Just think about no line. You're not at a range. You're not anywhere else. There's 8 guys, 9 with you, standing there with loaded guns.
Yeah.
And they all have to be able to point them in a safe direction and handle them for hours and hours and hours, and unload them and reload them and move them in vehicles. And it's just a lot of handling. And it's just, the more handling you have, the more risk of something going sideways. And so That's why it's so important to follow all of the rules, because even if as long as you're following at least one, generally somebody will not die.
Yeah. Muzzle awareness, I think, is what sums up a majority of that.
Big time.
If you can keep your firearm pointed in the right direction, which would be generally taught as straight up in the air or straight down at the ground, and then as we add dogs into the situation,
we take down away.
So point your gun straight up in the air, and it eliminates most of the safety situations. There are others. Then, as when you add walking and blocking, or you add shooting lanes and swinging through people, but that falls into the same category of muzzle awareness.
Where's it pointing?
Where is it pointing? I think in our concealed carry class, that was one of the biggest things that specific instructor beat into our head, is that we are responsible for where every round ends up.
Yep.
So it was a talk of, should you fire safety, like scare rounds in the air? Well, do you know where those are going to end up? No, you don't.
Yep.
And weird stuff can happen. You end up hitting somebody else as an innocent bystander. That bullet comes back down. But being aware of where it is. And
that's why I love break actions.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
If somebody's getting tired, there's a lot of ways you can carry that gun. It's broke open. Everybody, all the way, I can see from 100 yards away, that gun is safe.
Yeah.
It's still the same rules. You can't be pointing it at people. But it is definitely, takes a little bit of a variable away of knowing that gun is unloaded.
Now,
or not unloaded, but safe.
Yeah, but safe. Yep. And it's one of the things that, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, is communication. We're just jumping this right in the middle, but because it happens mostly around safety type situations.
Mm-hmm.
But it also does happen around just interacting with people as a whole. When I'm taking someone on a guided hunt, it's essentially their vacation, right? Most likely. It's a fun trip, call it a vacation, call it a whatever you want. Maybe it's just a weekend event or a single day or just an afternoon, but it is a fun extracurricular activity that those people have chosen to spend their money and time and do. It's my job to help enhance that, not the other.
Right.
And when I see safety situations, I see guides as a whole, and not even safety situations, just everything, but guides as a whole, act like idiots. And it's tough. And here's a brutally honest statement. Sorry if you're a guide and you think I just referred to you as an idiot. If you're not an idiot, I'm not talking to you. But if you treat people as if they are not people, yelling and screaming and belittling and whatever else, which sounds like, you probably, if you've been on a guided hunt, you've heard some of this, whether it was directed at you or not. Even if I see unsafe things, like I take the time to walk over and treat that person like a human and say, hey, you know how we talked about, pointing your gun in the right direction? You've fallen into this tired, guns over your shoulder, and I'm literally walking next to you in this shelter belt, which has trees and branches and things like that
don't stop pellets.
and your gun is pointed at me.
Yeah.
Like, can you understand how uncomfortable that makes me feel? Because I know it's loaded. I would assume it's loaded. We're hunting. And when you have conversations, or even when stuff happens that's close-ish, there isn't a single time that I've had something that people kind of shot over someone or didn't know they were there because they couldn't see the orange, or they got too excited by the birds and they shot lower, or whatever happened. And there wasn't an actual injury event, because knock on wood, I've had nothing happen. A couple people get rained on, like pellets coming down, not shot, bleeding, things like that. Knocking again, because we preach and help take care of the safety aspect of things. It's an inherently dangerous sport. But when we work with folks, like I walk over to that person who just made this shot that was uncomfortably uncomfortable, and there's never been a time that I've said, hey, like you saw how low that was, or you saw this, that, and another thing. And they go, I don't know what you're talking about. And everyone's like, yeah, that was scary. Like I can feel it. Like your skin gets tingly, and they know. And
that's part of my safety talk is like, especially if I'm dealing with people that have hunted a lot, they've all had something, something has happened, whether they shot a rifle and went, oh, I didn't realize that 400 yards or a mile away, like just, it was towards a house or something, or I swung through somebody. They've all had that feeling. And so part of my safety talk is bringing that back up, how that can nothing can go wrong, and you can still have it can ruin your day.
Yeah.
Because you know that you swung that gun through somebody, or you know that you shot at a bird right over the top of somebody's head, or any of those feelings. And for 99.9% of the people, they feel terrible about it. And a simple like, hey, you saw that, you know what you did, right? And they go, yep. They always know. And there's no reason to yell, belittle. It doesn't make it better.
No, but it happens a ton, and I think it's ridiculous.
I think it is too.
I've guided.
You get defensive more.
Yeah, I've guided with people, and I think it just ultimately treating people with respect. People aren't out there, and maybe there are some people that are reckless and don't care, and those are not people that I take.
They won't be shooting very long.
Yeah, no, we would just say, hey, you obviously don't care. You don't need to be here. Go away. So it's and that's not the average person. I don't remember a person that I've met that.
In all of the time, I've had two that I've had to been like, nope, you are leaving. You're leaving, or I'm leaving. One of the two. Yeah. And actually, one of them was a kid, and he just made a very, very poor decision, and he didn't get to shoot the rest of that field.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because there's a lot of experienced hunters that come on trips with me and have been there, done that, wing shot, understand their shotgun, or good shots, all of those things. And there's a lot of guys that are really good. I rarely have problems with anybody. But it's interesting. The guy that comes in that's been there, done that, and tells you about how he knows all about everything is, generally speaking, the first person to make some form of error. And the greenhorn, not necessarily always a kid, but sometimes a younger person. But we've also had, in your 30s and you're learning to hunt.
Yeah.
Never done it before, never hunted in a group this big or whatever. I get those because we do some corporate-ish type events, and it's like, well, you're coming along on the trip. I've shot a shotgun once because we went to the trap range before we came on the trip. And I will take that greenhorn over the old know-it-all any day of the week. And that just because the greenhorn typically listens. Yeah. And they say, oh, you said hold the barrel up in the air. And they're like a statue the entire time they walk, and they don't blow off what you're saying as far as where to keep shots above and how to stay safe all the way around. So
there's a third person. There's the guy that goes, I've done a little bird hunting, and then gets out absolutely all the bluing worn off of it, silver pigeon, and his Filson chaps are completely white on the front, and you're like, yeah, you've done some bird hunting. I don't have to worry about you. You're probably going to be just fine.
Yeah. It's, I don't pick on, like, I wear brand new equipment because I wear it out and then put new stuff on. And
depends on the time of year. When did it get wore out? Maybe got wore out to be, end of last year, you opened the truck and went, new one time.
Yep.
Or middle of the season. I put a big hole in my jacket. Now I have a new jacket.
I have a new jacket. Exactly. But there are folks that come and it is a brand new shotgun and brand new everything. And again, that's still a person, because it's in the guide world, and the guide like, I don't want that new guy, I will take the new guy and I will say, hey, buddy, this is how we're going to hold our shotgun, and we're not going to try and shoot dogs because they are on the ground and they're important to all of us and me specifically. And I've tried things over the years, and ultimately I try and go with what my gut says feels right. So I have a conversation and a safety talk, and I say things like that I've heard other people say, like, you'll have to call my wife and tell my kids. And it's like,
you're going to call my girlfriend and tell her.
Yeah. You killed her dog. Like, all right, well, these are all grown adult people, and nobody really wants to hear your stupid story other than you say, please don't shoot my dogs. They're important to my livelihood. In order to be safe, though, more importantly, if you take shots that are safe for the dogs, they will also be safe for people. We need to be clearing horizons and things like that. Now, different species change the ability to say that. Quail don't always fly that high, which is why you cut down the number of people out there. There's not 8 guys walking in a line going quail hunting. That would be a disaster.
Well, right? Especially if you're especially pen race. Oh, man.
They don't fly straight.
They don't,
a covey generally goes
together
and flies somewhere. Penrace birds go
and go everywhere.
Yeah, you got one flying at you, one that just hopped and set back down. And again, less of that happens when the birds are quality and taken care of, but still it happens.
And a cocker doing it.
The cocker gets them up a little faster. It's a big part of...
It's interesting how many people will go, I only saw 3. And I went, well, there was 8 that went behind us.
Yeah.
And you saw the 3 that kind of flew towards you.
Yes.
Because that's as predators or we technically are, we're seeing that we're picking up the motion and we're picking up the birds that are flying most likely at us or near us. That's what we're going to pick up. Whereas, you may miss some of those, especially on those pen raised quail that just go everywhere. So
if you spend enough time doing anything, you're going to see a lot.
Yeah.
And granted, again, I have never had an incident with a dog that I was handling. I'm going to caveat some of this because I've had incidents.
Yeah.
I've never had an incident with a dog that I was handling
involving
a shotgun.
Yeah. So I've had lots of stuff happen to dogs, but no guns.
Yeah. Dogs run into fences or they get cut up or whatever, but directly being shot or something like that has not happened. I have had a dog get run over that was in my hunt. I was, again, not handling it.
The most dangerous things to a hunting dog is a road.
It is. We talked about that in the last podcast. But we got out on a road like you do, and the guy didn't have complete control over the dog. It was kind of just it was a younger dog. It made a loop around the truck, and one of the other guys pulled out to go and pulled out and ran, clunk, clunk, ran over the dog. It wasn't even some vehicle driving by. No, it was just sickening.
Talk about ruining
everything. Yeah. No, everybody went home. That was the second day of the hunt. Everybody went home.
There's really nothing else to...
They just all felt so bad, It's like, what do you do from here? So it's, but I have never had an incident. And I think that there's a big part of that that's luck because there's a lot of shots that go on.
Yeah.
I'll give Jeff a hard time if he ever listens to this podcast. I always got to remind Jeff not to pull down and try and shoot birds running on the ground, and he's hunted a lot and he's taking a shot that realistically is safe. The bird is out in the middle of a cut field running away and you can clearly see there is nothing out here. But what happens is the second somebody thinks it's okay to start shooting on the ground. So we have to draw pretty black and white lines. Like, nah, just leave it. Watch me. And everybody that's hunted with me knows Ethan can run down birds really well too. Yeah. Dogs in 6 foot tall grass or cattails or whatever. I see it. I take off that direction, run the bird down. It's a thing and everybody laughs about it. But if I get a dog out there that catches up with me, they blow past me and catch the bird and it's perfect. If I can get them to see that I'm frolicking out in the field, then I could stop running.
Across the chisel plowed cornfield.
Yes. But I'm pretty good at running birds down that are crippled. And it's one of those things, though, that I have seen, and I remember it explicitly at Greystone. There was these ditches in the field. I was in field 3. And the way that they did stuff there, we jumped around on this a little bit. You said you hunt a field a lot, but the way they did stuff there so that it seemed like you were hunting something new is you got a new guide every hunt. And the guide stayed in a specific field.
So you did know your field.
I only hunted field 3.
Yeah.
Or 7 or whatever. It switched from years, but primarily stayed in the same field. Well, there's this ditch that ran in it, and you kind of ended up at you were lower than the road. The ditch was right here. And if you're walking, and it wasn't that exaggerated, but it was enough that you could be shooting kind of that like eye level-ish and you pepper the road. And that makes it difficult that this bird comes out of the thick switchgrass in the ditch. And then I see across the road as Rex is coming out of the ditch, like it was a half a second from him taking a load at 20 yards or something like that. Now, granted, 7.5 shot, but it was a big part of the pattern and it would have hit him in the head. It wouldn't have been good.
Right.
And there's been a couple other times that people have, shot the ground because they got too wrapped up in the moment. And it's been close-ish, like dogs are running that direction, but never have I had a situation where a dog has been shot in all of the guiding that I've done. I mean, it's been over 15 years, and I put a lot of emphasis on staying on top of the safety specifically for people, but even as well as for dogs, the entire time. And when you get into it, especially, we're going to talk about some tips and whatever for if you want to become a guide, but those dogs become your livelihood. If you lose one or two of them, you don't have the ability to guide anymore.
Right.
So it's important. And in the beginning, I only had 4 dogs or 5 dogs, and now we have more dogs, but that doesn't mean I don't know what the exact word, they're not a resource that we can just get rid of. Right. You know, I mean, it's not,
they're not unlimited.
There's a
lot
and there's a lot more to them than just a tool for this process. And so it's, you know, I would have to call my wife and tell my kids that Muddy got shot or whatever, you know, like it would be a horrible situation, not to mention my personal attachment to the dog, but it's, you know, it's reminded constantly.
Yeah.
Every hunt, unload your guns, go ahead, watch the gunners. As we're walking up to, you'll hear me yelling the whole time, watch your blockers. And then the reminding of every little thing that's seen. Oh, you kind of swung through your lane. Even though you were like this, you still swung across somebody. And I don't want that to be, because the next bird that comes low, it may be just muscle memory. Oh, I swung through and shot Dale.
Right.
And it's not,
and those always seem to happen at the end when people are like condensed down. Well, and also like you're walking back to the truck or something, and it's like you were just all spread out and you had this big wide area. Then all of a sudden, it's whenever I feel like you run into those issues when it's not quote unquote normal. When it's like a weird situation, you're tight with the blockers, or you're walking back to the truck and you're all talking and laughing, and then, hey, dogs are on point. We got one more right here. And you just kind of don't set back up. And it's that kind of stuff. And the safety talk, I mean, listen to the safety talk. If it feels repetitive, you know, sometimes I say the same talk to people 3 or 4 times throughout the course of a week. If you think it's repetitive to you, I literally say it sometimes.
That's what I always wonder
40 times a month.
Could I, what would I do if the airplane landed in the water?
Right.
Well, you go like this and you ignore the safety talk every time you get on a plane, which I fly fairly regularly, but it's that kind of thing. Don't tune it out.
Right.
You know, and I had that thought because it was planning in my brain upcoming things and not ignoring safety talks that are given. They're there for a reason. It's so that we can all be refreshed mentally on things to keep in mind.
Well, put you in the mindset to think about it.
Correct.
If it's not talked about, it's like, hey, you guys know to be safe, right? Yep. Got it. Good. Let's go hunt.
Yeah.
It's like, no, take a minute and like really get into the mindset of being safe. And
what does that mean?
And specifically, guides may have different rules or different things. And so knowing what they are, I mean, we all kind of generally know the basics, but they may have specific rules for instance, for me in Texas, if we run into a snake, there's very, very specific things that need to happen if somebody sees a snake. And the couple of times we ran into them, the hunters, to their credit, did exactly what I asked them to do. And that's very important for the safety of everybody, especially because most of the time there, if we run into one, well, only once, but it could be a venomous snake. So it could be dangerous for everybody, including the dogs. So
correct.
That could be a case where I have a very specific instructions of what I want you to do if you run into something. So paying attention to the safety talk is important, and it will get you into the right mindset, which is a big part of why it doesn't matter if you come down to the ranch and we hunt before breakfast and after breakfast. You're going to hear my safety talk, and I might change it up or throw a flare or something in there, but you're going to hear it before both hunts. I'm not going to say, hey, you guys know what's up, right? Got it. Good. Let's go. I'm going to give you the whole talk again because I want you to remember it. And it will just make everybody have a fun hunt, and they won't have to have that feeling of, oh, I swung through and almost pulled the trigger, or I did pull the trigger and realize how close I was to somebody or a dog or something like that. Cause it's just not fun. It just ruins the day. weekend. Ruins can, I mean, you can seen people really struggle with, a questionable shot. And they're like, nah, I'm good. Not going to hunt.
Yep.
And it's not good. Especially when we talk about new people, that can really, really mess with some new people. So it's good to take the time and make sure that you're handling the people and the dogs.
Absolutely.
It's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. And, as guides, I mentioned it, it's like our goal to help facilitate a fun extracurricular activity. And it isn't fun if something happens. So.
Yeah, I always tell everybody if you aren't sure if you want to guide or not, do you have as much joy in somebody else's success as you do in your own? Because if you have to be the guy that kills the bird, this isn't for you. Yeah. If you have as much joy or more so to see somebody else succeed, then you might have a lot of fun.
It's an interesting thing. My next question, and I'll give you a second to think about it if you want, but it's why specifically did you choose to become a guide? I mean, you've been doing it for quite a while. I've been doing it for quite a while. I think we'll have similar but different answers. And it's, but while you think about that, I have one fun little story that was in a safety talk. Was
it mine?
No.
Oh.
No, but your safety talks are great. It was a guided hunt that I went on, and I'm a professional dog trainer and handler and also guide, and brought a couple dogs, 2 specifically, to do this little hunt that we were going on. And the guide that we were set up with, who was going to show us where the ground was and everything else, he had dogs. And I had mentioned to him ahead of time, I would really like the opportunity to run my dogs if possible. And this is the same kind of crass, poor communication
Yeah. I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Yeah. Poor
as somebody who has brought
communication.
their own dogs to a hunt as well.
The guy literally looked me in the face with the pointed finger type of thing.
Angry dad.
Yep. And he said, if your dog steals my dog's point, it's in the truck. If your dog busts a bird, it's in the truck. If your dog steals a retrieve or whatever, it's in the truck. I'm like,
or no.
Yeah.
I paid.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what I said, which is why I take a completely opposite approach to that.
Yeah.
I say, oh, you brought dogs? Great. Well, let's run them until you're tired of them running.
Name one person who owns a dog who went, yeah, it's sweet. My dog blew the birds out of the field, and they're happy. Nobody wants that.
No. But it was moments like that. And I do try, guided hunts aren't cheap, but I do try and go on experiences like that and learn from everything. I recently went on an axis hunt. It wasn't a bad hunt. It wasn't a bad situation, but there were a lot of things that I could take away from a communication standpoint. We had a hunt listed.
What not to do.
Yeah, sometimes what not to do. I understand. Some of the people that are coming to hunt with me haven't been there for the last 10 years and know where they're going and what to expect and what clothes to pack and when to arrive and when not to arrive. And, we had, it was scheduled the 13th.
Pro tip, if you're not a little cold in the morning before you walk, you will be too hot.
Yes.
There you go. There's a little tip for you.
Yes, you should be a little bit cool or you're going to be shedding layers after the first 50 yards. Yeah. But on that hunt, we got the bill that had the dates on it, and it said a 3-day window for our 3-day hunt. Well, the hunt was arrive at noon and hunt the afternoon. And we bird hunt. I've never done an afternoon bird hunt. Mm-hmm. And I guess it might be a more traditional thing with some big game hunters or something, depending on where you're at. But it was, and it's axis deer. There's a lot of them. And it wasn't a quote unquote difficult hunt. To shoot a really big one, we would have had to work hard at that. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like when I went antelope hunting. Those are all fair chase antelope. These axes were supposed to be fair chase. We weren't in a high fenced area. There was a barbed wire fence that was the neighbors. We couldn't go that way. But they were everywhere. And the antelope were everywhere. And we shot 2-year-olds that were little. Yeah. And we did it in an hour. If we'd wanted a trophy antelope, we'd have had to hunt harder. But this in that situation, I learned to do a better job communicating, because we were going to show up a full day ahead of time, expecting like to be there that night before our hunt date to hunt in the morning. And they're like, there won't be any place for you, so, and we're traveling at that. I mean, it was almost 14, 15 hours.
Right.
It changed the plan. And I looked back through everything, like, how did I miss this? I didn't, it wasn't there.
Right.
So, just learning from all experiences, it's your hunt, it's your dog. You're excited to watch it work with the training you've put in and all of the pieces. Maybe you followed our online course and now your dog is completely ready for the hunting season, and you want to watch it point its first bird or point birds and kill them over them to build experience. You don't necessarily want my super experienced dog taking everything away from your dog. And some people say, I want them to run and learn with, but ultimately, if you say you've got green dogs and you can handle them, there's a difference in areas that I would say bring your dog just to try and help see the best light in them. But if you can handle them, I want them on the ground so that they have experience and they get to see them.
Absolutely.
Not spend the entire time backing or just running around and whatever, because our dogs do have more experience than the average dog based on the amount of hunting and guiding that we do. So why?
So it started with one reason and became another.
Okay, let's hear it.
So it started more so because I had a bunch of dogs and I wanted them to get work.
Yeah.
And it became a way to help pay for my training bill. And what it grew into was, like I said earlier, is I started to realize that I was really liking seeing other people's success, to help them succeed with their dog, with them, to just overall, even their day. Like it was cool to like come out of the field and them go, man, a Miller Lite would be great right now. I'm like, guess what? I have a Miller Lite, because I always kept a 6-pack of, I'd have Busch Light. This gets into a whole lot of other stuff, but I got to be where I wanted that day for somebody, or that weekend or whatever, to be the best weekend it could possibly ever be, so that they could tell a story 10 years from now to somebody about this great hunt they went on. And they might not even remember my name, but they had the best hunt they could have. And that's what it became for me. And that happened through the preserve, through guiding day hunts and half day hunts, and realizing that just because I'm only going to see this group of guys or gals or people for, half a day, doesn't mean that I can't have that, a couple beers at the end of the field for them when we're done, or I can't have water with me to give them if they're thirsty, or to just make that whole experience better and to make them have a great hunt. That's what it turned into for me, is I want them to have an experience that will be memorable. Yeah. And sometimes that's as simple as nothing went wrong.
Yeah, no. That's huge.
I forgot my shells. I got a box. Just, it can be that simple. Sometimes you can just save a day that way. Oh, my gun's malfunctioning. I got a gun. That's what it turned into for me. And it didn't take long, because it was easy to do both, right? You can have the dog, you realize the dogs are getting the experience. And, as my dogs got more and more trained and needed less of that, pretty soon I'm running, 4 utility prize 1 dogs as my guide string. They don't need any of this. This is fun for them, but this isn't needed anymore. And that's when I could really kind of turn on how can I make this the best hunt for my hunters?
That's awesome. For me, slightly different. I was a professional dog trainer assistant-esque. I kind of trained, it was just getting started training dogs, but that's meant a lot more handling dogs that were finished. And that was a big part of my job, was kennel attendant and exercising keeping them sharp. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of dog handling before I actually got to do, and I was training my own dog at the same time. So I got little pieces of the development process while handling a bunch of finished dogs. And I got offered an opportunity, and it was like, hey, do you know how to guide? And I'm like, yep.
If you want to do it, always say yes.
Yes.
Because you will probably be better than somebody.
Well, this is true. And
if you want to do it, you're already a step above some people that I've went on hunts with.
Well, it's and that's a very valid point. But the other side of it was money. I mean, that was primarily, I could make more money guiding because it was guaranteed consistent. We were going to get a minimum of 25 hunts a month, and then we're going to get paid this per hunt, plus the potential of gratuity, which is always it's a never for sure thing, but it's a generally kind of expected thing-ish, and anything extra on top of what they gave me as my guaranteed hunts, I was like, dang, this is going to be an awesome winter to make some money. And it went from that into, I saw how incredibly insane even pen raised birds built from an experience standpoint, as long as they weren't bad. And it is still one of those things that enough bad birds, but I set birds there the same way that I'm talking, like very minimal dizzy to them. And I learned that if you put your Huns out, because you would get this collection, I had to set my own birds, which is a big part of why I like wild bird hunting more too, because I don't have to get up real early to go set birds.
Oh, the preserve did that for me. I loved it.
Oh, it's
that was very nice.
It is nice. We set all of our own birds there for every hunt, twice a day, and I learned that if you set Huns out in a general area, they will call to each other and they will work into a group, and you'll hear them, generally speaking, you'll hear them calling when you come out, which also adds a kind of a cool thing. Like, oh, there's Huns over there, like let's go see if we can get them pointed and whatever. But if you put chucker individually like that, they run away and they're never where they were left. They'll use like a French redleg hybrid, like crazy chucker.
Runner.
If you put chucker in pairs, they always were there.
Yeah.
So you could know, here's 2 chucker that we can come hunt. And then you always put the pheasants in the thickest crap that you can find, because that keeps them running away, hopefully. Yeah. And then quail, I always flew out. And sometimes that bit me. Yeah. Because I would fly them and they'd go, and then they're on the next field over. And I'm like, dang it. But I would try and stand on the edge and fly them somewhere toward the center of my field or whatever. And
probably easier on the morning one than the afternoon one was probably a lot harder to control where they went.
It is. And because you're not setting them in the dark, but you could open a box and let them run out in the morning and things like that. But I would try and do things to that nature to where it would be a 10 or 15 bird covey of quail. We got 30, I think, per hunt, or 50 per hunt or something. I put big coveys out near the middle of the zone so that hopefully we could go chase them. Right. But people would get to see an explosion of quail, not here's 3, because we have to make sure that the numbers get pinned out.
I don't like that. When people get, when your hunt consists of 10 quail and it's 5 pairs.
Single, or 10 singles.
Or singles. It's like,
exactly. So that morphed into wild bird hunting in South Dakota, which I fell in love with. I mean, it was just and I don't think I carried a gun for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was just running dogs. And then to see that I could take a young dog and turn them into an experienced dog over the course of a few weeks.
Yeah.
It would take me years on my own to put that many birds in front of these dogs. And it allowed us to see who was good and who wasn't, to try and build the exceptional breeding program that we have today. It allowed me to help, like my Uncle Rich. He'll be on the show at some point. I know it's inevitable, but
not if he can help it.
Well, yeah, but he's a big part of all of the hunting that we do. I did a majority of my introductory to hunting with him, and with the bird dog that I got, I hunted the most in the fall with him. And I would take his dog down with me, and he swears up and down that the reason she was so good is that she went to Texas with Ethan and got 5,000 birds killed over in a matter of a few months, and that might be a slight exaggeration, but it was a lot.
Saw that many probably.
Yeah. And so then from that, it's morphed into a bigger piece of business that not only do the dogs that we're developing get the experience that they need, and you could see it, dogs that time out appropriately, and they get to be on the truck from the middle of September through the end of November / get some experience now down at the ranch, which we do some short trips with the young dogs. We're going to try and do a little bit more this year, but the more that they get exposed in that early, sponge type of stage of their life, the better bird dogs that they become. And it's why, every dog has their day. I can run 3 really, really nice dogs, and today dog A gets beat, and then dog B gets beat, and then dog C gets beat. It's all dependent on that day. There are some dogs that have a knack and tend to fall into the top tier more often, but
for sure,
I have been where, like example being Vex, hell of a bird finder, amazing dog, work ethic, loves to be a part of all of it. And wild bird hunting, he would probably out hunt a good portion of the dogs that we hunted with. And Maggie, really, really nice dog. Nix, really, really nice dog. Also an exceptional wild bird finder. But I would say Nix and Vex, and probably at that point in time, I'd have had somebody else with me.
Shooter, maybe.
Shooter would have been there, and a couple other dogs. I don't know. Some of the big ones.
Bean.
Vino wouldn't have been Vino would have been there if Vex was there. So that collection, they're all master hunters. They're all finished dogs. And I would say I would have picked other dogs, but we go down to Texas and, Maggie out hunted all of them. That was that day. It was just, she made them all look stupid. And the guy that I'm with is like, wow, this is the most amazing quail dog. I'm like, wow, this is today the most amazing quail dog. And now granted, there's a lot of dogs out there that wouldn't hold a candle to most of them just due to sheer numbers.
They can't help but be good.
They can't help but be good. And so that's kind of the evolution for me. And why do I still do it? It's come down to the point that I really, really, really enjoy not only seeing people's success, because I do you did it. Excellent. I can't believe you made that shot. All of those things are important. But those relationships have become, at least in the zone of friends that are people that I communicate with on a regular basis. And so now I get to, with some of the groups, go hunting. Some of the newer groups, I don't carry a gun or not as much. It's all, I do enjoy helping people to enjoy that time. It's like I try and explain what our grouse hunts are to folks. And I say, we're going to roll out on the prairie into the middle of nowhere. And you aren't going to be able to see anything in 360 degrees around you. And we're going to bebop up and down some hills, and we're going to find some birds that have lived on this continent their entire lives.
Yeah.
And since the species happened, right? And then we're going to kill a few of them, and we're going to, when the dogs get hot, we're going to go back to the trailer, and we're going to pull out lawn chairs, and we're going to just relax where basically your cell phone doesn't work and you can't hear anything. There's no cars. There's no hum of the city. There's nothing.
Yep.
You just sit out there and relax, and it's incredibly enjoyable. Mm-hmm. So I like sharing that with people.
Yeah. I think probably because I grew up in Iowa, and I got into hunting a little bit later, bird hunting specifically later than, I was well into my 20s. But I spent so much time. I mean, the second I got trig, even before I had trig, I shot birds over. I had a boxer Weimaraner mix that did not point.
I remember
she
that.
flushed birds and she'd retrieve. I had my first trained retrieve on her. But yeah, I hunted so much that I was just like, I want more. I want to get them more birds. And the money is never a bad thing. You can add on top of it too, for sure.
Absolutely. The last thing that I kind of want to leave with is tips for people interested in doing this / the hard truths. And I'm going to start there with the ugly note, and then we'll move into the tips, okay?
Yeah.
First and foremost, if you choose to be a guide, there is the potential that you yourself could be shot, or higher potential, generally speaking, that your dog could be shot and killed.
It is dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Period. There's no way around it. There's
now,
people with guns.
Knocked on the table 5 times and spun around in a circle here. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. And I have been very fortunate, but it's because of the reason of having safety talks and staying on top of that and helping keep people focused on something that they're not as familiar with and as comfortable with as I myself am. I shoot a lot over dogs. You shoot a lot over dogs, and you are more aware of everything that is going on. I see it a lot with the volunteers in hunt tests and NAVDA events. yes, they're good shots. Yes, they're gunners. Maybe they've gunned for their own dogs, but they don't have quite the level of awareness. It's not like full blinders, but it's like half blinders. And they get zoned in on, I have to kill this bird for this dog, and miss some things sometimes, and or the bird. But all of those things being said, if you can preach the safety aspect of things, you shouldn't have issues, and it can be really good experience for the dogs and a good way to kind of make a little bit of money on the hobby that is the money pit.
Yeah. And it's work. I mean, don't believe that it's going to somehow be this great, like I just get to go hunting all the time. It is not that.
It's like when people say they love dogs and they want to work at the kennel. I'm like, but do you love dog poop?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that.
Urine today.
Yeah. I mean, on average, you're going to, and not that there aren't other jobs and people that work hard and things like that. I'm not saying that, but it isn't.
It's the difference between throwing a cooler in your truck and grabbing your dog and dropping them and going hunting, and being responsible for 2 to 6 people, 8 people, to whatever you are responsible for their safety, for their well-being. If they have dogs, I mean, they're going to look to you as the person with the knowledge, and if there's ever a question on something, they're going to look to you. You're the person that's going to have the answer.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by work. Like there are going to be times where you have to figure out, what to do, how to do it, where do we have to go, where are we going to do this? You have to be thinking 10 steps ahead of them. And what, like I said, I got to the point where I kept all the major gauges of shotgun shells in my truck. I don't like Miller Lite, but I always had a 6-pack of Miller Lite because there's always somebody that drinks Miller Lite. Having a diet soda, having water, having Gatorade, having those things because they may not have it, having extra vests, orange hats. I mean, you just get to where you are kind of responsible for their day, weekend, week to a certain extent. And even if you say,
the better prepared you are, the more.
Yeah. And maybe you don't have an orange vest, but if they're there for the weekend, you go, here's where we can get one. I know exactly where to go. We can run and get you one, and it'll take 10 minutes. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And if you go into it thinking, I'm just going to go hunting with my buddies and, oh, you don't have a vest? Well, that sucks. Guess you're not hunting. Well, that's not how it works. And so I feel like I've run into that a little bit, specifically when you get into more like the day hunt type of thing where maybe they do it once or twice a month. There's just a kind of an attitude of like, well, why aren't you prepared? And it's not really what it's about.
I think that in the industry, burnout is, I don't want to say inevitable, because though I've been tired and okay with the fact that the season is now done, I don't feel burnt out with the process in a sense of like, I hate doing this. Now, there are times where there's been higher stress levels, but it's generally speaking not directly related to the hunting. Like there might be stress with, I'm also running a business with my spouse, and I have now children and things of that. So there are other stressors out there, but for me, guiding is an enjoyable thing.
Yeah.
But you will be tired.
You will be tired. It is hard work.
And one guy that I ran dogs with or guided with around for a while, he always did this. It's another one of those things that irked me, is he'd be like, day 34 in a row for us. And I'm like, they don't care.
Yeah.
It's day one. It's day one.
That you need day one energy.
You need day one energy, day 2 energy, day 3 energy, and then you get to go, and then you need day 1 energy.
Yep.
And you need day 1 energy every day. But I mean, that's it. And that's hard. And I think that a lot of guides fall into the category, not intentionally, but they get tired.
Yep.
Because it's long hours and long days and long strung together time periods of minimal to no days off, depending on where you're at.
Well, and you may, if you go up South Dakota, you may have 2 days, quote unquote, off, but the dogs they're still there. They still have to be taken care of. They have a routine and a schedule. You can't say, I'm just going to let you sleep in the trailer till noon. No, you got to get up, let them out, take care of them. So even that, especially when it comes to upland stuff, there's a lot of responsibilities that regardless of if you're hunting or not, that you're going to have stuff to do, and it's going to be work.
And waterfowl side of things is a totally different monster. I couldn't imagine those guys get up at, Yes, the scouting is never ending, and you need a team of people to do that. You got to have a lot more equipment.
Got to put birds to bed.
Yeah,
So you're having late nights and
then really early mornings. I know an example of a really good guide is David Fox. They run Maximum Waterfowling. It's based out of now I'm going to screw that up. But
I'm lucky. My waterfowling consists of running the dog.
Yeah, that's helpful.
That's what I do. I mean, I help, but I don't call shots. I don't call the ducks. I'll call a shot if I have to. It's not like I won't, but generally if it's pretty nice to just be able to run the dog. And, but again, that's another, man, talk about dangerous pit blinds. Whew, we can talk about that.
Yeah, they're in pit blinds. Hawk Springs, Wyoming, but Maximum Waterfowling. David Fox, him and his wife run that, and she does all the bird cleaning and things like that. They run the two separate businesses, and she can make a goose edible, which is saying something. Goose pastrami, which is ridiculously good, and the jerky and whatever else. But he's a guy that we book a hunt, have for the last quite a few years, literally the last week of the season. So this dude's up 2:30, 3 o'clock. He sets all the decoys out for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, which is something that it's probably everybody's least favorite part of the process, right? And second least favorite part is putting the decoys up.
I'm going to say putting them away is my least favorite.
Third,
you're all pumped putting them out.
third least favorite is probably cleaning all of the geese.
Yeah.
So it's, but the process as a whole, it can be a lot of fun, but he falls into that category of extremely good guide. I mean, we're literally there the last week, and he's got a good attitude. He's cracking a joke every once in a while that's funny, not at the expense of someone that's there.
Yeah.
He's just being silly, which means that he's in a decent mood, and it's day one energy. He's not like, you're here. Great. Let's see if we can kill some geese, and then grumpy because he's tired. Like that's where a lot of that grumpiness comes in, I think, is burnout and tired. So you got to be prepared for those things. You got to be able to think with that mindset, because I'm not saying I don't get tired.
Absolutely.
I definitely get tired. I'm not saying that I don't go like, one more day, because then I can take a break because I've run 32 days in a row or whatever it is. But you have to keep in mind that it is maybe day maximum of day 3 for these folks on their vacation, or if you are a person that goes on a guided hunt, if you're listening to this, but there are guides out there that do a really good job.
Absolutely.
And if you're interested in guiding, keep some of those things in mind. You got to be safe. You are responsible for everything that happens in the hunt. You are in a service industry, so taking care of people is going to go. It's not an exact science, but taking care of people is going to mean a lot. Helping to know where to get the gear if they forgot something, or having something that can be borrowed within reason.
Right.
And then taking care of the people. You don't always know these things up front, but like you're explaining, there are folks that prefer diet soda. So I make sure there's diet soda in the cooler. Those little things.
It doesn't mean you have to have cases of all of this stuff. You can buy a little 6-packs of bottles, and just sometimes you realize, that diet soda's been in the cooler for 45 days. I'm going to go ahead and swap that out with a different one because nobody has taken the diet soda.
Correct.
But I promise you, when the one person goes, I want a Diet Dr. Pepper, and you go, here you go. And they go, holy cow. Like that might be the thing, oddly enough, that sticks with them. That, I don't know, that guy had Diet Dr. Pepper, and that's what I drink.
Yeah. And it's, and then being respectful to the people that are there, that are paying either the company that you work for or you directly to help them to have a quality experience. And I know that there are a lot of really good guides out there.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that there are not so good guides out there. And for the most part, I feel like it's related to being burnout or being tired and losing sight of the reason why they started doing it. So if it is something that you are interested in, I would say go for it, especially knowing kind of what to be prepared for.
And I think the easiest way to get started is in those like half day preserve type situations. Yeah. You probably don't necessarily want to do that with your 6-month-old puppy, but
dogs need to be prepared.
Need to be ready for it. It was definitely nice when I started running my dog steady to shot in those situations. I could ask them to do that pretty easily. And, that definitely took a little bit of stress off of me from a safety standpoint and the hunters themselves. Same rules. You have to, you can't swat stuff on the ground and shoot low because dogs are dogs and things happen. And again, this is part of what I always explain. We hunt at Texas steady to wing shot fall, but they are dogs and something can always happen. So never take that for granted that they should be standing because they may not. I mean, things happen. So, but that is a good way to get into kind of getting your feet wet and starting to learn the ins and outs. And plus you can usually go there and go on a hunt with somebody and you can get an idea of how that particular operation works. You can go pay somebody to do a hunt and figure it out. And then you can express interest and say, I saw how that went. And if that's pretty standard, then I think it's something that I can do and look forward to doing it. And usually a lot of those places will have a list. So that's kind of how I started is I got on a list. I said, hey, I do a ton of training. I do all this stuff. And actually, so it's been 10 years now. So when I got back from Norton, is one of the things that I said, hey, I want to do this often instead of just every once in a while. And, so I got my name put on a list and they knew that I trained dogs and knew I had good dogs and, never heard a bad thing about me. And next thing I know, I'm getting phone calls and sometimes it's for a Wednesday afternoon, can you make that work? And, if you have a flexible enough schedule, you'll get more phone calls and you get on the list and take those opportunities. And then the big scary one will be the first time somebody asks you to take them wild bird hunting. The first time I ever did wild bird guiding, I was like, oh, here we go. And luckily, I'd hunted enough. So it wasn't like I was coming from out east to go to South Dakota with a group of people on property I'd never been on. It may be property I wasn't on, but I mean, some of the stuff I guided on my first wild bird hunt in Iowa, I mean, I'd hunted within a half mile of the property that they had permission on. I had permission on another piece. So it wasn't as big of a jump, but it was definitely like, here we go. I hope they got birds. I hope these guys can shoot. I really want this to be good. And what can I do? That was my mindset at the time, is what can I do to make sure that it's the best for them? So,
yeah, I'm nervous every time until we've got a handful.
Yeah.
We're started in the right direction. Oof. Yes. You go a couple dry walks right out the gate. It's like, whew. And then if the birds do the wrong thing, they start to make me angry. And then I start driving people a little bit too hard. Like, all right, let's go.
Let's go.
Next spot. Come on. And they're like, wait a second, we need a break. I'm like, no. We need to find more birds because, it's like an internal drive of not wanting to get beat by birds, but also wanting that experience to be there. And sometimes I do overlook the fact that it's not always, people didn't come up there to go hiking.
Right.
There is other aspects to it. Being there is fun. Seeing the dogs, doing that is fun. But if you just wanted to be in nature, you wouldn't have slung a shotgun and trugged through the mud. So it is part of providing opportunities.
Yeah.
So, and every once in a while I get beat.
It's okay if the birds win sometimes. They just can't win all the time.
I don't get beat often, but every time I do it pisses me off. So, but folks, I hope this has been helpful. A little insight into guiding, some of the safety things to look at, some of the do's and don'ts and differences between types of birds out there. And ultimately, if you are interested in it, I really think that you should. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Maybe we're even hiring. That's a thing that happens on a regular basis.
Occasionally.
Lots of guiding operation here from the Dakotas to pretty far south in Texas. So all of that being said, I'm the guy with the pink gun.
Still just Charles.
We'll catch y'all in the next one.